See, the most important reason why any leader goes for leadership position is the attraction of the resource of the leadership position. Do not allow anybody fool you. The reason why any leader goes for a leadership position, electable leadership position, is the attraction because they can control the resource of leadership. The reason why anybody is going into politics is not because they're interested in changing the lives of people. It's because they want to control your resource. And don't be deceived. If they're really interested in changing the life of people, they will do what I'm doing. They'll come, they'll do charity with their own resource, and they'll do it for the sake of humanity, not to get anything. But the reason why they're doing charity for you a year before election and they're giving gifts is because they all want to control resource. And that's why you need to be smart. You also need to ask, what is in it for me as a citizen? The reason why America is fighting in Iran is because they want to control resource and the petrodollar. I'll take you back historically. Many years ago, America and the British CIA and the British MI6 dominated the oil in Iran. They toppled President Mossadegh in 1953 in something called Operation IX because they wanted to control the oil. In the 70s, they brought about something called gold, what's it called? The American dollar, the petrodollar, being the dominant currency in the world, where oil is bought in dollar. And from there, most of those dollars are invested in the American market. These are the ways they were able to grow the economy and make it bigger. Anything that challenges their dominance, they do not like it. So they try to subjugate it. They look at it for control. Israel is an ally. They want Israel to be able to control the Middle East for their own purposes. So they will do any deal that favors them. There are many people they had used in the past. If you go and read history, they supported Iraq when they were fighting the Iran-Iraq war of the 80s. But guess what? They also sold weapons to Iran, despite the fact that they were funding Iraq to fight Iran. You know why they did that? Because they were trying to do an hostage deal. And the money they got, they used it to be able to go ahead and fund another uprising in Nicaragua. Everything is about interests. Be weary of people that do charity and the next thing they are using it to run for politics. Is because they want to control resources. They do not control resources for you. They control it for them and their families. Despite they are giving you fans and ACs and gifts, you can never be richer than their children. The monies they are using to give you charity things is because of their own personal interest. Any country that gives you aid is because of their own personal interest. They are interested in your resource. There is nothing free in this world. Be careful about free things. Except for few people that are just altruistic. So especially with political leaders, be careful. It's all about their interest. And you see, in maintaining their interest, just like America is trying to do things to maintain its own interest, They don't care about you. They care about themselves. They care about their families. They care about what comes to them. You are the lowest part in the pecking order. Have you ever wondered why it is during an election they come to share money, they give alms? The question you should ask them is, where did they get that money from? It is the same money that is supposed to be your resource from the Commonwealth, your taxpayers' money, and all of that. That's what they in turn take and they share for you. And they make it seem like they are giving you a favor. They don't share these things because they love you. They share these things because they want you to vote for them so that they can keep controlling the resource that controls your life. And you go ahead to vote for them, that means you're foolish. And that's why they've been controlling you. And they'll keep controlling you. They'll control your children. Guess what? Your children will be servants to their children. You can see them already taking their children out and putting their children in positions. So it's not about you. They're not thinking of reducing unemployment rate. It's resource. And the earlier you understand this, the better it is for your psyche. And that's why I said this might be one of the most important messages you'll hear in your life. The better it is for your psyche. And let me tell you how political class manipulates citizens. And I'll preach this message over a long period. Number one, they manipulate you by fear and anxiety. They create an existential fear. They tell you if somebody from another tribal group gets into power, your life will be destroyed. They tell you that they are the Messiah. They tell you they are the ones that will end insecurity. But today, those that said they will end insecurity can't end insecurity. Look at what happened in Jos. Over 20 people gone. So almost all the campaigns they do, they preach fear, but they also preach hope that is not realistic. So be careful and be wary about those that are preaching hope that is not realistic. They tell you we'll turn around things, we'll turn around the economy. But you know these things are not possible. And that's why when we ask them the accountability question, how, it turns into fights. Then they start to blackmail people like Rufai asking the accountability question by using you that Rufai is fighting for, that is suffering, to say he's rude. You know why they say that? Because they want to discredit the capacity to be able to ask them, how will you do what you said you will do? And they don't want that because they don't have answers to that. Somebody's calling us up already. Hello, how are you? Hello. Morning, what's your name? I'm still preaching, you're still calling. No. You will not allow me preach. You will not allow me preach finish. Secondly, they use us versus them dynamics. That's when they tell you about tribal groups. They don't care about you. They don't even care about their own tribal groups. When they are stealing your money, they steal it with people from other tribal groups. So if you think they care about you so much, you're delusional. When they steal your money, they steal it with people from other tribal groups. So be careful. Because when they start the narrative of us versus them, be careful. All right? Be careful. because they use it to manipulate a lot of people. When they start that narrative, be careful. Another thing they use is stomach infrastructure. Stomach infrastructure. What is stomach infrastructure? Palliatives, food, stuff, things you can use for your business, and all of that. You know why they use all of these things? Because they want to get you to support them. But the question is, their work is not to only give you palliative. Their work is to ensure that business environment is enabling. But if you fall for it, then your life becomes in jeopardy. Because for them, it's about how they can manipulate you and manipulate your ecosystem. So be careful. And very soon you will see a lot of it. The people that didn't put in programs to make your life better, then they will come and give you palliative. Normally, what the government is supposed to do is that things like foodstuff and other things, there should be a project where all year round you have foodstuff to give to the poor people, not only around the election period. Because that's what a welfare system is. The question is, the money they claim they spend on school feeding program and all of that, or conditional cash transfer, is everybody reaching it? Is poverty not increasing? So you don't need to subscribe to lies. You need to demand accountability. So when they bring all sorts of entrapment, then be careful. Another entrapment they bring is that I'm doing you a favor. No politician is there to do you a favor. They are there to do themselves a favor. Why do they do what they do? Personal ego, your resource, and for the committee of friends. Be careful. So there is no full-on altruistic mode. You need to be very careful and you need to be calculated. Another thing they'll do is to turn your family against you by financially inducing people around you to make you feel they're the best things ever. So you should be careful. What you should constantly ask them is, how are you going to provide food? How are you going to provide water? Isn't it shocking that throughout the country today, we've not even solved the problem of portable pipeline water? Most states in the country, across the states, do not have portable government water, tap water coming from the pipes. Go and check. Even states that are very rich, how many people have access to public water? Everybody's doing boreholes, digging the land to do borehole. So they don't ever talk about solving the problem of water. They're more concerned about themselves. So you have to be smart, because they'll do it, they'll hoodwink you, they'll pay adverts, they'll get endorsements from media outlets, and it's about how they can control the resource. They use your resource to keep themselves in power, to continue to use your resource. And that's the drill. And that's why you should now look for people that you can hold accountable. Because for them, it's about themselves. It's about the resource. They'll do all sorts of manipulation. They'll tell you that things used to be a lot better before, but now it's no longer better. They'll spin. They'll repeat a message over and over again. There are people that are called spin doctors, and they will help spin a particular message over and over again. There's something called subliminal infiltration. And they will use a lot of this. There are people who pay billions for this subliminal infiltration. You think it's ordinary eye that you see some people, they say, oh, I got this, I got that, I'm influencing for this person. They'll use things like charity. They will give influencers money to go and do charity just to subliminally mention their name. You'll see all these things. They'll own media and capture media. And when they start to bring the palliatives in, you will collect it because you are poor. I'll give you an instance. In the old Soviet Union, Joseph Stalin, I think there was a story told about Stalin where he took a chicken, a live chicken, and tried to pull out the feathers. And the chicken was in so much pain. And while the chicken was in pain, he gave the chicken small corn on the ground, and the chicken still picked it up to eat it. The chicken did not think that the person that hurt him was the person that gave him food. So once citizens have been battered to a place, and the people that batter the citizens give them food, they don't think that this is the person that hurt them. They use linguistic tactics, strategic ambiguity, euphemisms, emotionally charged language to be able to do a media and PR move. How do I know all these things? I've done this job for over 20 years. I've seen through many campaigns. Also, they will use bots on social media and algorithms. They'll use bots. They'll get influencers. and they will circulate a particular message and they will manipulate it. This person has been calling. Hello, madam.
Hello, good morning, sir.
What's the problem? You've been calling me. I'm still talking. I'm still preaching, but you're calling me. What's the matter? Okay, talk.
My name is Gift. I'm calling from Ikotu
Yes.
area.
Yes.
Please, I'm into Indomie business.
Okay.
Sir, please, I'm begging in the name of God. I want to establish my business.
So you want to establish your Indomie business?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Okay. We've noted it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Because she's been calling since I just wanted to hear. So there will be bots, fake accounts, sponsored agents, physical billboards, grassroots support, all sorts of hyper marketing. The other part is they will change the electoral laws to favor them. Gerrymandering, change of electoral laws, put certain things to favor them to be able to work against. These are all strategies that they use. The reason why they do all these strategies is because of their own control of the resource. Why they leave people down. And that's why here we bring out facts for you and we open your eyes to things. We also help people here. I mean, there are many people that have been helped here. I don't need anything from you in return. I'm not interested in running for office. I do it because it is my mandate to be able to do and help my fellow human being. So these are the things you should watch out for because a lot of them have started already. And as I go on every week, I'll still keep breaking these things down for you. Because elections are just months away. January 16, you have the first election. By January 17, 18, you already know who the next president is. It's the beginning of another term. They are closer than you think. By April to May, you already know who the presidential candidates are. We are already in full election mode. It is my duty to be able to open your eyes to this. If after opening your eyes to this, you will still fail and fall for it, that's your problem. Will it be a record I didn't open your eyes to it? It will be a record I did. 0818-099-1991. 0818-099-1991. That's the phone number to call us on. After I've opened your eyes to it, what should you do? Ask questions. I know a lot of you might still collect money after all I've said. But ask questions and ask yourself, is this money not a down payment for your suffering? Because a lot of you, your suffering is worth about 100 million. But all they pay down for your suffering is 10,000 naira that you collected. But you will now see the effect of inflation, how it kills that 10,000 naira. Hello, how are you?
Hello, Rufai. Good morning.
Morning, great to have you.
Yeah, thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. Speak up a little bit louder. Speak up.
Okay, thank you for what you're doing. My name is Frank. You are doing a great job. We appreciate you. We wish we have more Nigerians who will come out. But the problem is Nigerians, we are scared to come out because of our lives. That's the biggest truth. We are scared to come out. Yeah, but I believe that with what is going on, reforms and other things, that we're going to get it right this time around. So keep up the good work you're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. 0818-099-1991. So they give you all of these things. Some, that 10,000 naira that you're going to collect, you even pay with your life for it. Hello? Hello? Some even pay with their life for it. Hello? 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 Hello?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Moses. I'm calling from Arepo State.
Go ahead, Rick Moses.
You see this issue of government looking for ways to find people's conscience for them to vote for us. I think we've been able to recognize this over the years because we all know how all this thing works. Let's look at the past election before Tinubu entered. The first time Tinubu entered, we all know, even on the video, there was a time Tinubu took hand in the pocket and give one man money. So all these things, they are things they've been doing for years. So the citizens will feel like if they don't care about them, the little time they care about them, let them just collect the items, the phone, the whatever they want to give them, which is really, really sad. I just feel one way the youth needs to do is that we need to participate collectively. Enough of us coming and start complaining. We need to participate in politics.
Okay.
By the time they get to the see that we are actively in politics, we are with the youth, since they know that it is very, very hard to buy the youth vote, then they will know that this is the right time to do the right thing.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Let me take other calls. Hello, how are you?
Hello, good morning, Rufai.
Morning, good to have you.
The man of the people, the voice.
What's your name, my brother? Magdam, bless you, my brother. How are you?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Happy Sunday to you, sir.
Yeah.
Happy Sunday.
Hope you were able to get something for what we pushed for you recently.
It is well. It is well.
Hope you were able to get something because we did some.
20,000.
At least you use that to keep body and soul together. At least we're able to raise that for you from here.
Yes, you really tried. I really appreciate it. I know the way things are in the country.
Okay.
As well. So thank you very much, Rufai. Today, I was listening to your message this morning, and my question is that, sir, because Nigeria has a Dangote refinery, we have the resources, all these oils are coming out from our land. Because they are fighting war in Iran and US, does that have to affect us in this country?
Yes, it will affect you. It will affect you because you buy oil at international rates. So once you buy oil, no. So you see, the oil is not free. The refineries you see, we buy oil at international rates. That's over $100 per barrel. If Brent crude is $100 per barrel, our own oil, if you sell it, is about plus or $3-4. Our Bonnie Light sweet crude plus or $3-4 plus Brent international rates. So you buy international rates oil, a barrel, you buy it for over $100. A barrel is about 159 liters. All right. When you buy a barrel, out of a barrel, maybe you can produce about 72, 73 liters thereabout. So with all the calculation and all the costs, it still comes down to a higher amount. So it's not that it's mind free for you. So once you buy it at the international rate, what everybody is suffering in the war, you suffer it. Before, the reason why you will not suffer it because government used to bring money to cushion the effect. That's what they call subsidy or under recovery. But since government say they are not paying that money again, you are exposed to the subsidy, and that affects the harmful effect of removal of subsidy. That's why once you remove subsidy, prices go up, especially you are not shielded again from the shocks of the international scene. That's what happens. It is well. Bless you. Hello, how are you? Hello? Hello?
Hello, thank God at last.
Morning, what's your name?
Mr. Rufai, good morning. My name is Sunday Chito from Akowanjo.
Great to have you.
Thank you for doing a great work over there.
Bless you.
I like the way you analyze the story for the last caller. But when I'm talking to my friend in the US, likewise saying that the BBC is affecting them a lot in the US.
Yes.
Our friends in Ghana, South Africa, all over the things they are talking to us. But my concern now is that Mr. Rufai, as from today, I don't want to miss your program, and I know that only you cannot do it. But what is happening in Nigeria is that Nigerian people, we love money too much. In fact, sometimes when when I'm in an environment, when we are talking about how Nigeria will move forward, what I'm hearing people will be saying that, maybe they never give you money. If number one car, he give you 100 million, you will shut up.
You know why we love money too much? It's a reflection of societal poverty. You know why we love money too much is a result of societal poverty and the failure of government. Because when you get the money, what do you spend it on? You spend it on healthcare. If government provide affordable healthcare subsidized, you will not need money that much. If government provide good roads, you will not need money that much. If government provide affordable good education, you will not need money that much. So the reason why you grab money is because the systems of government are failing. Then you need money because you yourself have to be your own government. You provide yourself water. Government doesn't provide you water and you buy water from government. You provide yourself healthcare. You provide yourself everything because the systems do not work. So it is when a society is so money loving, it's a reflection of poverty of the society.
Thank you, sir. But what I want you to do, I know that only you cannot do it because from now, some of the party, we choose the people that wanted to represent them. What can we do for any environment we get? How can we convince you?
Number one, go out when they choose whoever is going to represent them. Go out and vote your choice based on scrutiny. Scrutinize every candidate. Look at their past. Research about their past. There's AI. There's Google. There's everything. Research about their past. Research about the bad parts about them. Research about the evil about them. Research about the good things about them. Then compare the best of all the ones you want to choose and make your choice.
Thank you. And
I need to go, my brother. I apologize. More calls coming in. Hello, how are you? Hello. 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 When I come to you on the line, pick it to. Hello.
Hello.
What's your name? Where you? You need help. I can't really give you support. You need a scout. You want to go abroad, Abi?
Yes, sir.
You need a scout. I don't do scout work here. That's the problem. I don't have his contacts. I don't have his contact. I don't do scout work. I don't do scout work. Eh? Hello.
Hello. Good morning, Rufai.
Great to have you.
Yeah, my name is Desmond, calling you from Mojo.
Okay.
So, Rufai, I really appreciate the way you broke down that the relationship between our oil price and the Iran war. I really appreciate the breakdown. And then going back to what is affecting us as a people in this country.
Desmond, speak up.
Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah.
Okay. I said going back to what is affecting us as a people in this country. The problem is leaders have weaponized poverty.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, so they make you feel like we should see them as Alpha and Omega. They are our savior. So, can you hear me?
I'm with you.
Okay. So, the night they that makes us feel like, so whenever we see money, we find money. When you go to UK, when you go to America and Canada and all that, you will see this white people. They don't want much for money. You see them work 4 hours, they work 6 hours, and they are okay. They work extra hours. Because they feel that whatever they do is what they are being paid for.
Yes.
Especially for offices. You don't know what you do. You only need money to just take care of their basic needs. We need money that will, the next generation that will not even people spending money on the cash in their houses. Sometimes this money that we can't even put to the other day, tell our man was going to purchase how much to point. And she said that she's agreed to a place again. And our government is that place again. And because that money, how many years I broke it down that if you pay 5 million per month, it take her 40 years to pay 2.1 billion or 2.1 billion. Pay 5 million per month. It take her 40 years to pay 2.1 billion naira. And our government will agree to that. So
Thank you so much.
To make us that's about Lagos to see money as a big deal.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You see, the thing about weaponizing poverty is deeper than what you see on the surface. I'm going to explain this to you. Can you talk quickly so that I can explain something to the audience after you speak? Go ahead and speak quickly. Great to have you. Where are you calling from, sir?
Yes, sir. I'm calling from Abuja.
Good.
I love what you are doing. And whatever you said is nothing but truth. The problem lies in the tropical area like in our villages. And we have to as well scrutinize some of the polling units that these politicians are using. Are they really existing? Like, are they existing? In order to get accurate results of the vote? Because I'm suspecting some of these things are real. And that is number one. Another thing is, in Abuja here, recently election was conducted. And I'm aligned, like I'm very close. So my neighbor is a police officer. If that person read how this the election took place, you won't believe it. We still have a long way to go, Mr. Rufai. We are not ready. And then these people are so wise, are so cunning politically, that when they find that you have an arrowhead that will destabilize their plan, they will go for you either by buying you or by blackmailing you. And only the strong survive in this battle. In the sense that if you have been arrested today, you probably have a lawyer that would stand for you. But then there are a lot of these people like me, who are so determined to commit it for the whatever that will happen for the betterment of this country. But then we don't have a voice. And that is why we are so ardent to listen to people like you who stood for the ordinary citizens. So, Mr. Pfizer, your voice, I wish it can get to the remote areas whereby those people who can easily be who can easily be deceived will understand. Even as you, like your own close relative, if you travel back to their community, to the village, you cannot fully confuse them. And you cannot imagine, like, are they being deceived? So the thing is just on and on.
Okay. Thank you so much. So let me explain how poverty is nice. The reason why everybody wants to steal money, or most people want to steal money in Nigeria, number one, because there's poverty of the system. What is poverty of the system? You don't have good roads, you don't have good hospitals. Only 36 million was spent for healthcare infrastructure, obviously capital projects. You don't have good schools, you don't have good roads, there's insecurity, there's kidnapping and all of that. So why people want to steal money? So that because when they get kidnapped, at least they'll be able to pay their way out because the government will not provide security for them. So at least, they can buy big SUVs to be able to maneuver bad roads. because so that they'll be able to at least send their child to private schools and get private healthcare. That's why people steal money. If four of those things are done, people steal less money. Corruption would drop precipitously. And secondly, when people go abroad, the reason why they go abroad is not because they pick money on the floor abroad. Yeah, the exchange rate is strong, but it's not because of that. The reason why they go abroad is so that they will create those social buffers that we don't have here. They have schools, they have quality environment, they have security and all of that. It's those social buffers they create. Why do they work twice as much abroad? Because they still have family members back here that don't have those social buffers. So as long as you have family members and dependents here, that's why you work twice as much abroad. So that's what the political class have been able to do to manipulate. And when you look at it pervasively, for them, as long as they can continue to get the resource, that's it. But we all see how they end. See, I'll tell you the story of a former Senate president in this country that used to live the high life, spend money. In fact, he used to have parties in the Ritz-Carlton in England, in the US, and all of that. When he died, it took them days to be able to carry his body home. It took them years to be able to carry his body home. So in the end, they just use this resource for their own selfish benefit, and it doesn't impact anybody. It's just for the good times. But we all see how most of them end. The most important thing about life is building legacies. Hello, how are you? Finally, what's what's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from London.
Can you speak up quickly?
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
You can hear me now. I really want to thank you for your sensitization and what you're doing. I enjoy your program so much. The problem we are having in Nigeria, so to speak, is the masses.
Yeah.
The people excess. I really, at a point, I will blame the politician for trying to make things work for themselves because they want to remain in power, steal our money, and equip their children on 50 generation that have not even, they have nothing. But it's not my problem. My problem is the masses who refuse to understand that these people are really going to do, they're not going to stop until we step up. So for example, I was being told, you can be told that Tinubu is sending a palliative. That palliative, I can see in television, in video, someone is showing people are rushing to take some of them as mortgaging their futures for another 4 years. Mortgaging their futures for another 4 years. It's rubbish. Someone is telling us to revolution. People are not ready to make a move. Nigerians are not ready to make a move. For example, in Iran, because they wanted a new government, even when they are being killed, even pastors are being killed, you still see them marching on the streets, demanding for their freedom. Even when they are being killed, you see them marching massively to say, we don't want this leader. But our Nigeria, when you give them 50,000 naira, when you give them 20,000 naira, brothers start fighting brothers because of 20,000 naira. So my point is this: it is not about the elite; it is the Nigeria, the citizens.
And that's why we're sensitizing them. Thank you so much for your thoughts. I really appreciate it. And that's why we'll continue to sensitize them. We'd like to say a very big thank you to each and every one of you for joining us on the show today. And the show still continues anyway for those online on YouTube. And if you're listening on terrestrial radio, you can continue to listen to one of the channels that are carrying our shows on terrestrial radio. I pray as you go this week, God will bless you, will keep his eyes and favor over you, and they give you peace and everything. Hello, how are you? What's your name? Go ahead. Let's talk about it.
I really appreciate what you're doing and most times or something that switch over to this station. You are a good analyst, and I really want to give you the thumbs up, and always follow and God will keep you alive.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So like I was saying, the show continues on VOP 90.3 FM on YouTube. So that's one of the channels carrying this our series, VOP 90.3 FM on YouTube. That carries our series, So as time goes on, we'll get many other, YouTube channels to carry our series. Then we're also being carried on terrestrial radio. On 90.3 Lagos, Ogun State, and maybe Lagos and pretty much Ogun State, and some parts of Oyo State. If you get in there, you can listen to us. You can just tune your radio to 90.3 FM. So these are just some of the platform carrying us. 90.3 FM on Lagos terrestrial radio, and also in Ogun State. So if you are in Lagos and in Ogun State, you can listen to us on 90.3 FM. But if you are abroad, YouTube, VOP 90.3 FM. I mean, those are the carry platforms. So we also have other platforms carrying us here and there. Hello, how are you?
Good morning, sir. How? It's not easy to get to nowadays. I've been calling for the past 4 weeks.
So sorry. There's a lot of callers. So sorry.
I'm the one that got from me to you, that got help from your platform to go for eye surgery.
Have you gone for the surgery? Was it successful?
Yes, that is why I've been calling to the platform and tell you that I've gone for the surgery.
Wow. So I remember your case. You said you had an eye problem. We raised something for you on this platform, and you've done the surgery. You can see now. You've regained your sight.
Yes, now I can see. At least I can read. I can type. Yes.
And before you couldn't see. Before you couldn't read.
I couldn't.
But now you can see. And God used this platform to give you back your sight. We give all glory to God, and we thank God for the people God used. It's about God. It's about God.
Thank you, sir. I'm using this opportunity also to thank the brother Amadi Chukwu.
Yes.
That you use your platform to help me. Thank you so much, sir.
God bless you.
Bless your platform, sir. I'm very grateful.
God bless you. God bless you. I'm happy that you got your sight back. That's what God did on this platform. We give all the glory to God. We don't take the glory here. Bless you, God. We give all the glory to God. So that's about it. So, like I've said, you have many carriage platforms. If you tune your radio, if you're in Lagos, Ogun State, probably some parts of your state, and as time goes on, you'll be able to listen to us on 90.3. Also, at some point, about a year ago, you could hear us also on 96.1 VOP in Abuja, but we're having some challenges now. We'll get back in the air soon. But if you're on YouTube, VOP 90.3 FM. So you'll be able to watch all of this, because the second session, I'm playing 2 interviews. The first interview I did with Additional, former African Development Bank president. I did that interview, so we're playing that interview. And then we're also playing the session, where he spoke about stuff. But that's going to be on 90.3 FM radio. And you will also be able to watch it on VOP 90.3 FM YouTube. So those are the carriage platforms. And thank you guys so much. I pray as you go this week, God will bless you. He'll keep his face and favor over you. He'll help you on every side. And he'll liberate you in everything you do. Bless you. God bless you. It is well. Thank you so much. Thank you.
It is a pleasure to introduce today's keynote guest speaker, Dr. Akinwumi A. Adesina, President of the African Development Bank Group.
Thank you very much, and good morning to every one of you. I wish to thank the Dean, Sumitra Aduta, faculty, and of course the students of Oxford University Side Business School for the great honor of being your commencement speaker at your graduation ceremony today. I'm here with my beautiful wife, Grace is somewhere here. I don't know where she is. Right. And for everything that I've done in my life, 60% belongs to her and 40% to myself. When your invitation was conveyed to me, Dean, by Ms. Aruma Oteng, former Vice President of the African Development Bank and also former Vice President and CFO and the Treasurer for the World Bank Group, a faculty member here, and a close friend of myself and Grace, I did not hesitate. And I need to be frank with you about why I didn't hesitate. Because I was actually admitted to do my PhD here in Oxford way back. And I decided to go to the United States. Oh, just think about that. And the reason I did it was because I had a professor, and I was quite interested. My field was in mathematical economics. And he said, look, as a guy who is a world-renowned mathematical economist at Purdue University, you had first class honors, right? But let's see how you do under him. So I went quickly to the library. I looked at the United States Information Service and found Purdue University. And I applied there and I went there. And of course, when I finished and I had a outstanding PhD thesis award from a university, I went back to Nigeria to see the professor and say, see, we did well, right? So that was the only reason I didn't come here. So, but I told the dean today, I'm back. The last time that I visited the business school here was in 2016, when I spoke at that time to some of your students here at the Archbishop Desmond Tutu. They were Archbishop Desmond Tutu fellows. So in between my admiration for the school and Aruma, you had me cornered. I'm absolutely delighted to be here. What a joyous day it is for you, all the MBA class of 2023. You have worked so hard. You've overcome numerous challenges, and you have succeeded. You also have made your families, colleagues, friends, and lecturers who are here to celebrate you equally proud of your accomplishments. Congratulations. Now, you are among the most privileged few in the world. Now, graduating from Oxford University sets you apart. Your school, the Side Business School, is one of the best in the world. And I am delighted that also I heard that the benefactor of your school, Mr. Side, is here with us today. Thank you, Mr. Side, for your exceptional generosity to the school and for supporting all of these MBA graduates that will shape the future of our world. Class of 2023. In front of me today, I see builders and shapers of hope. You have been well prepared to go into this world to become change makers. You have received a world-class education, and you are absolutely ready. The world awaits you. The world faces many complex challenges. At the top of this is climate change. It poses existential risk for our world. We must do all we can to keep global warming to no more than 1.5 degrees Celsius. And for that, we need innovations to power the world better with renewable energy. We must do all to feed the world. It is not acceptable that over 2.3 billion people in the world go hungry every day. God did not create stomachs to go empty. He created them to be filled. There must be a hunger-free world. The COVID-19 pandemic has taught us the importance of global pandemic preparedness and to ensure that no one is left behind as far as access to affordable healthcare is concerned. After all lives matter, for the rich and for the poor. Recently, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres raised the alarm of the world is off course on meeting the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, our collective agreement to shape a better world for all. A better world for 940 million people who are without electricity in the world. A better place for 3 billion people without clean cooking energy. Majority of those are women, and of which millions and their children die every day from inhaling smoke while trying to cook just decent meals for themselves and their families. A better world for 2 billion people without access to clean water, and 4.4 billion people without sanitation. A better world for 1.7 billion people without access to basic finance, credit, savings, payments, or insurance. A better world for the 244 million children that are out of school, including 129 million girls. Many of them have dreams just like you all. They would have liked to be here today, even in the future. However, they cannot achieve their dreams, and neither can our world achieve our collective dream of a more just and equitable world unless we prioritize financing for developing countries to accelerate development. The global financial architecture is failing development in the world today as it faces multiple challenges. The global financial architecture needs to be modified to tackle these global challenges more effectively and to accelerate the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. The global pension funds and institutional investors, which many of you will go on to work for, will have $144.5 trillion of assets under management. As you do, I have a plea. I encourage you as leaders to ensure that these vast resources are directed towards the collective good. We must ensure equal opportunities for all, regardless of one's economic, social, and racial backgrounds. We must create a level playing field for a more just, fair, and equitable world. More than ever, the world needs change makers. Change makers that can carry the love of God into a turbulent world. Change makers with a heart. You cannot shrivel. You must blossom. You cannot be hidden. You must stand out. Learn to commit yourself to working hard and making a difference. Regardless of where you find yourself, live a purposeful life. Inspire others. Support others. Pour yourselves into helping others to unleash their potential. Live for others. Do not live for yourselves. Then you will have fully made the only wealth that counts, the wealth of creating hope for others. Now, do not get me wrong, we need wealth. Received right here at Oxford Side Business School. Today, you joined over 1,000 graduates from here who have gone on to set up successful business ventures around the world. Bring into the workplace a mindset to work for others, not just for yourselves. A selfless mindset. A dedication to justice, equity, and fairness. A determination to promote transparency, inclusion, honesty, and integrity. A determination not to be sucked in by the slimy allure of insatiable corporate greed that has wreaked havoc on the lives of billions through creative accounting, misrepresentation of the valuation of companies, or the selling of securities that lead to insecurities. It is often said that history repeats itself because people do not learn lessons from the past. Now, as many of you go into this, tens of millions around the world lost their jobs, and poverty levels rose as social programs were reduced. The insatiable greed of a few for wealth triggered a financial contagion that caused immeasurable lifelong consequences for many around the world. The recent Silicon Valley Bank collapse is yet another case in point. SVB Bank assets had grown from $72 billion in 2019 to $220 billion by 2022. Tech companies have stacked up deposits in the bank, rising from $62 billion to $198 billion. Alas, SVP's business model quickly unraveled as interest rates rose and the value of his bond portfolio plummeted. Deposits thus ran to make a run on the bank. HSBC had to buy SDP for £1, securing the deposit of the clients. But for this, once again, we will have seen the businesses and livelihoods of millions of people in jeopardy. There is no doubt that the withering down of financial regulations that prevent unbridled speculative activities led to 2008 global financial crisis. The tightening and toughening of regulatory environment put back the guardrails. But those guardrails are now being gradually removed. This may portend well for quick wealth creation for just a few, but could trigger greater risk-taking and financial speculation again, all oiled by greed. I read a really screaming headline recently that said, greed is good. Oh, really? I do not think so. Greed is the spark that leads to financial forest fires that blaze unchecked until all in its path is consumed. There is a need for greater regulation to protect the lives and livelihoods of millions of people from predatory practices of speculators. But more than ever, there is a need for strong ethical and governance standards in financial institutions and corporations. The drive for high risk-adjusted returns should not lead to moral hazards, but put at risk the lives and livelihoods of people. It is not just about growth or competitiveness. It should be about security and stability. You've got your MBA. Congratulations again. You deserve it, and you work so hard for it. Now, add to it the key for success: integrity. Integrity is about honesty, transparency, authenticity, and trustworthiness. The famous investor, Warren Buffett, once said, and I quote him, "In looking for people to hire, look for three qualities: integrity, intelligence, and energy. And if you don't have the first, the other two will kill you." He's so right. Look at him. In other words, intelligence and energy without integrity is a disaster. While your MBA will open doors for you, it is integrity that will keep you successful and make the world a better place. Integrity is a currency you will spend throughout life. Do not squander it. Lose your integrity, and all you will have left is nothing but emptiness. There is a litany of business executives who have been derailed by greed and succumbed to unethical behavior, financial gimmicks, creative accounting, and fraud. There is no alternative truth, ladies and gentlemen. Truth is truth. As you go into the business world, stay within the rules and regulations. You all look great in your suits, and I love this place because you all wear bow ties, and I'm a bow tie guy, so I'm at home. But keep it that way. Don't trade your striped business suits for orange jumper suits. Do honest business. Stay out of trouble. Set your goals and stick to them. About 4 years ago, I wanted to raise the capital of the African Development Bank Group. Now, a major shareholder who spoke with me at the time said, "This is dead on arrival. You're a first-time president." And actually, the father of one of the graduates today, Bright Okogu, Dr. Bright Okogu, an ex-Oxford graduate, is here. Bright, where are you? Somewhere here? He was the dean of the board at the time. You can hear the guys. He was the dean of the board. And they said, "You are a first-time president. No first-time president in the history of the bank since 1964 has dared to do anything like that. Subsequently, a barrage of others expressed similar sentiments. I was undeterred. My team and I were convinced that we were on the right path. We persevered. 2 years afterwards, the shareholders of the African Development Bank unanimously approved the increase in the capital of the bank from $93 billion to $208 billion. The largest capital increase in the history of the bank since its establishment in 1964. And we achieved even more because of that. Last year, the African Development Bank was ranked as the best multilateral development finance institution in the world. This year, the African Development Bank was ranked as the most transparent financial institution in the world for lending operations to governments. Here, thank you. Here is a lesson. Never doubt yourself. If you do not believe in yourself, no one will believe in you. Your worth is not based on what people think or say about you or your ideas. It is the value you place on yourself and your ideas. Those who succeed do not check the pulse of public opinion to see how they are doing every day. They set goals, drive to achieve them, and remain tenacious when others doubt them. To succeed, build alliances and partnerships. Do not try to be successful alone. Be successful together with others. An African proverb says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. An African tree you may all be familiar with is called the baobab tree. Its trunks are huge, and under it are elders in our villages who will gather and tell stories or hold meetings. If you try to wrap your hands around the baobab tree, it is impossible. But if you join hands together with several others, your collective arms can embrace the baobab tree. That is what I call, in my leadership approach, the baobab approach. At the African Development Bank, I used the baobab approach with great successes. Let me give you an example. Earlier this year, we wanted to support Africa to mitigate the effects of disruption in global food supplies due to the Russian-Ukraine war. We had developed plans for countries across Africa to be self-sufficient in food within 5 years. But now we needed to have this financed. I told my team, deploy the baobab approach. We did. We worked with development partners from around the world. Within 6 weeks of the summit, we had raised $70 billion in commitments to implement investments around Africa. Nothing works better than collective success. Never walk alone. Now you must go out and be all that you can be. Now you must arise and shine. Be a doer. Never procrastinate. Take decisive action. Be purposeful. Be determined. Be resilient in the face of whatever challenges come your way. Now, if you set goals and your plan A doesn't work, don't forget there are still 25 letters left in the alphabet. Never stop doing good. Think with your head, but act with your heart. The most powerful instrument you will find in your hand is the power of your pen. When you reach positions of leadership, use that pen to positively change the destinies of people in your office, in your neighborhood, in your city, in your nation, and in the world. Let that ink that flows be the ink of kindness that always flows from your heart. be compassionate leaders, and make the world a better place for all. Now, ahead of you is a stretch of life. Live it fully. Live it doing the right thing. Live it supporting others. Live it doing the best you can to improve the lives and livelihoods of people around the world. Use the Baobab approach. Now, I'll ask to stop your order a little bit. I'd like you to rise and hold the hands of the person next to you. Just the graduates and the faculty members. Yeah, you just hold the hand of the person next to you, right? Okay, we're ready. Now repeat after me. Baobab approach.
Baobab approach.
Together, we will succeed. Oh yeah, you will. Sit down. Now I want you to go out and make a difference in the world. May God put wind behind your sails. God bless you all, and thank you very much.
It is a pleasure to...
When people say leadership sometimes, I find it somehow you have.
Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, commander of the Order of the Niger, is a Nigerian economist and the president of the African Development Bank. He previously served as Nigeria's Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development. Dr. Adesina is the 8th elected president of the African Development Bank Group. He was first elected to the position on May 18, 2015 by the bank's Board of Governors at its annual meetings held in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, and was re-elected for his second term in 2020, becoming the first president in the bank's history to be re-elected unopposed. Under his leadership, AFDB has pursued bold initiatives aimed at transforming Africa's economic landscape and fostering sustainable development. Under Adesina's leadership, AFDB has prioritized 5 key areas known as the I-5s to accelerate Africa's development. These include Light Up and Power Africa, Feed Africa, Industrialize Africa, Integrate Africa, and improve the quality of life for Africans. However, despite progress, Africa still faces challenges such as high debt levels, slow industrialization, and climate change threats. In this interview with Morning Show anchor Rufai Oseni, Dr. Adesina continues to advocate for increased investment in Africa and innovative financing solutions, including greater private sector involvement and what will become of his life after the presidency at the AFDB.
Ladies and gentlemen, to this great session with the President of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina. I mean, needs no introduction with his myriads of impact projects all over the African continent. In fact, it's apt to call him Mr. Africa himself because of his developmental strides across the continent with the bank and starting from Nigeria. But let's go back, to the very beginning. 65 years ago, when you were born, if they told you that this will be your future, would you believe it?
No, there's no way that I could have projected this kind of future. The only thing that I can say is what is constant is God's grace and propelling power. And what you have to just do in life is trust in God, do all the things you have to do, And His grace takes you exactly to where He wants you to do. And the way I look at life is that my life is nothing more than being an instrument in the hands of God to do whatever He has designed. And so I make myself available. But when I was born into a pretty low-income family. My father grew up as a farmer, and he didn't go to school until he was 14 years old. And except for a benefactor that came to the village, my father literally attached himself to his coattails and said that he had to go to school. So he took him to Lagos. And he was so generous, he put my dad to school, sent him to Igbobi College. At that time, it was like going to King's College in the UK. And that was how my dad actually started in the civil service from very, very low ranks. But we moved. I was born in Ibadan, and we moved all around and stuff like that. But God kept me alive, and God gave me grace, and I continued to move on. So, but there's no way I would have known that I would have ended here. But the only thing that I knew was that I had great values. I had excellent parents who taught me to love people, to be hardworking, to sacrifice for people. I never looked down on anybody. And they also sacrificed for my education, because my dad used to say, look, I don't have property I'm going to give you. But the only thing I will give you is education. And I really want you to know that with good education, you can be at the same level with children of permanent secretaries. In those days, federal permanent secretaries were the big guys, in government. And it came to pass. And just to say that education is the best legacy my father ever gave me.
And they taught you how to dance too, I should
say. Oh,
yes. I should say that. But starting out in university, you had to go through the grind, as they say. It wasn't easy. After you got your first class, going to Purdue, I mean, there were some really hard times. How did you surmount those hard times? And what did those hard times teach you? First and foremost, I was very fortunate. In the university I went to, of course, I don't know which university you went to, but I went to University of Ife, not the Obafemi Awolowo University of today, but the University of Ife. And I had the blessing of having excellent professors. My professors were trained in some of the best universities around the world, because at that time, in the US, in UK, Oxford, Cambridge, and top university in the US, that's where they all went. So I had the benefit of world-class education in Nigeria. And of course, from there, I went on to United States. And that experience was a different experience, because, when I arrived in the United States, I didn't really have money, because the federal government scholarship that I had wasn't paid. And so I had put together 250 naira at the time, which was a lot of money at that time. The dollar was 1-to-1, literally to the dollar. Dollar was 1-1 to the naira. And then I went to the federal government of Nigeria's consulate office in New York. And that was an experience, because when I got over there, the guy who was there said, well, I hear you just came from to United States from Lagos. I said, yes, we just arrived in this morning. He said, for what? I said, here are my papers saying I'm federal government scholar. He said, no, we're going to send you back to Nigeria, because we haven't even paid the rent for this building for 6 months. Wow. So forget about whether you can get any money from there, So, here was I in the United States with only $250 with me, and myself and one other guy who finished from University of Nsukka. He was a first-class honors. His name was actually Emeka Ojukwu. I hope one day I will get to see him. And he was going to Texas, and we were there in the embassy. And as we sat in the embassy, one guy walked in. He said, look, you can't get money out of here except God breaks a bank in New York. I said, no, God will not break a bank in New York, but I'll get my money. And so anyway, we went and stayed in one, shanty hotel somewhere that we were paying $20. The hotel, room had no, the door wouldn't lock, so we took a double bunk. We used it to shock the door. Yeah, and that was how we in the morning I told the guy, I said, Emeka, look, do you pray? He said, no, he doesn't pray. I said, it doesn't matter. I said, I pray. And the Bible tells me that whatever two of you shall agree on earth shall be agreed for you, my Father that's in heaven. I said, if I pray, can you say amen? He said, that I can do. I said, so go ahead and do. I pray, you say amen. And so we prayed, and he said amen. We got to the Nigerian embassy. Same guy walked in. He said, you guys are still here? I said, we're here. He said, no. God has to break a bank here, because you cannot get your money here. Wow. Well, anyway, cut a long story short, the consul general asked, bring in one of these guys. So they came in and called me.
And I walked right through this long office, I saw the guy, and he just said, pay this guy. So that was how I was paid.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I went in and I sat down, 2 minutes after, they called in America, and that was how he was paid. And after that, they called the New York Police Department to empty the entire embassy. Wow. So all I wanted to say by that was from the moment I stepped into the United States, I saw the mercy and the grace and favors of God from the very first day. And that was actually how I actually got, believe it or not, for 6 months, I had to walk to school. So I walked in snow. I didn't have gloves. I didn't have anything. And I had only tennis shoes I brought in from Nigeria. And it was very, very hard. I walked more than 10 kilometers to school and back. And one day, I stood on the bus lane, and I had only 25 cents left, not in America, but in the world. And I entered the bus, and the bus driver said, yes, I put in money in the till. So I did. I put 25 cents. He said, that would be 50 cents, please.
Wow.
I had no 25 cents. So I said, that's all the money I had. So he put his hand in his pocket, and he took 25 cents out, and he put it in, got me to school. And when I got me to school, I went to see one of my professors who was there, whose name was John Connors, Professor John Connors. And he said, Akin, I wanted to see you because we had an exam just before, about 3 days before. And your script came back and you scored 54%. Now, 54% was a failing grade. And he said, what in the world is wrong with you? Because you are the best student by far in this whole class. Something went wrong. I said, Professor, I haven't eaten for the last 3 days.
Wow.
So the last thing on my mind was the exam. I was just drinking water for 3 days. And so he took out his checkbook, wrote me a check for $100. And that was how I got additional money to, like a foil,
Wow.
to keep me going. But cut a long story short, as I was getting out of his office, he said, oh, go to room 575. I said, what is that? He said, just go over there. I went over there. I met a man whose name was Professor Philip Abbott, mathematician. And he said, well, he always backed the door. And he backed the door. And he said, who's there? I said, additional. He said, look, are you a Nigerian student? I said, yes. He said, I hear you're very smart. I said, no, I don't know anything about that. He said, I hear you don't have money. That is absolutely correct. I have absolutely no money. And he said, you have an assistantship.
Wow.
I said, what does that mean? He said, it means that you have a full scholarship for the rest of your master's training, and you will get $575 a month. You can imagine what's
wow.
So that was how I started.
So there was a miracle everywhere.
It was a miracle. And when I finished that, I also got a PhD scholarship. I got my training done and all of that. And at the end of my training, my final exam in the same course, I got a 94%.
Wow.
And I went back to the same professor, and he never gave me my script ever since that time. So he took it out of the drawer, he ripped it off. I gave him $100 back to repay him for all the money he gave me. And he shook my hand and said, congratulations, doctor. So it's an abridged version of the grace of God that saw me through
wow.
a very difficult situation. And when I finished, I had the outstanding PhD thesis in the university. So it's been God's grace all the way.
I can imagine. I can imagine from living hand to mouth, from living in the Shanty Hotel in New York, just going through. Let's talk about your wife real quickly.
Oh, my wife
stood by you. I mean, just go ahead, serenade.
No, Grace is, Grace. She's
grace, so much grace.
She's got grace, and Yemisi, which also means God honors me. So she comes from a wonderful family, and Grace is the best. Marrying her is the best decision I ever made in my life. Of all the decisions,
Tell me about
absolutely. I was right there in the university. She was in the university with me, and we were sitting there. I was sitting in a cafeteria in the university with a friend of mine, and there walks in. It was in 1970. It was 1980, and there comes somebody who walks in and looks at us, and I looked at her, and she came to our table, and I said, "What's your name?" She's very beautiful, so I caught my attention. And so we got introduced to each other by this friend of ours, mutual friend. And I said, "What's your room number?" And she told me her hostel room number. But immediately I was so excited I forgot. My heart was palpitating and so on. So afterwards, I got her room number. I went in there. I was a pretty good cook, right? So I put all my skills into making this fried chicken, well done and everything, like all the spices you can imagine. I did it, and I took it to her hostel, and I put it next to her bed with a note. She wasn't there, with a guy you just met you met yesterday at the canteen. And that was how we struck our relationship. I think she was excited that, oh, this guy can cook. And anyway, the rest is history.
As they say.
Yeah, but my wife is my best friend. She's my counselor. She's my prayer partner. She's my strength. She is several times sharper than myself. And I actually, there's nothing that I do that I don't discuss intellectually with her, because she holds me intellectually on the grinding mill. So I used to tell President Jonathan when I was minister in Nigeria that, Mr. President, it's not possible for me to come to the Federal Executive Council and bring a memo here that is rejected. And he said, no, Akin, what do you mean by that? I said, well, because it has to go through a grace test at home.
Yeah,
and it was a
process.
A very, very brutal process. And so that's who she is. She supports me. She's a great listener. She's a great supporter. And she put her career on hold all throughout these years, just listening to me, supporting me, and helping me. So whatever I am today, it's a joint work of ours over the years. And President Obasanjo is the one who gets it really well. He says, well, Akin, he calls me Akin 45. And he calls Yemisi Grace, he calls her Yemisi 55. And I asked him why. He said, because 55% of your success is due to her, and 45% is due to me. I've been trying to get 1% more since that time. I've not succeeded.
That's a good place not to succeed at. Let's talk about also this story of you coming back, to Nigeria, then serving in Jonathan's cabinet, then fighting the mafia in the fertilizer sector.
Yeah, first and foremost, I owe a lot of gratitude to President Obasanjo, because when he nominated me to be considered as a minister in Nigeria, he didn't tell me. I had no clue to President Jonathan. I just got a call from President Jonathan saying I should come to Nigeria. So I called Baba, I said, Papa, what's this? Oh, he said, oh, by the way, yeah. I mentioned your name, just casually like that. And that was how I went to Nigeria. And of course, then I was appointed by President Jonathan to be his minister. For me, public service, because I grew up, my father was a public servant. And in those days, civil service was really very, very rigorous. I come to public service with exactly that in mind, public service, to make sure that you deliver good service, responsible service, efficient service, and credible service to people. And I always put people at the core of what I do, because it came from my own background. The village school that I went, people matter to me more than anything else. So when I became minister, I said to myself, well, look, the first thing I have to do is that the farmers must get access to inputs. So if they don't get access to very good quality seeds or fertilizers, I might as well just pack my bag and go home, because the whole system that I met on ground was highly inefficient. Government bureaucracy, government will buy fertilizers and store fertilizers and distribute fertilizers through different channels. And for decades, an average of 11% of all the fertilizers bought and sold by government ever got to the farmers. So it's like the fertilizers developed legs and hands and walked away, to other countries and all of that. So one morning I got up and told my wife, I said, look, honey, I'm going to have to fight this system down. If I don't succeed, then I should pack my bags and go back home. And of course, what I did was I figured out that, Coca-Cola, everywhere you went, in any part of Africa, you'll find Coca-Cola in the remotest of villages. But the government wasn't buying Coca-Cola, it wasn't distributing Coca-Cola. So why couldn't I find Coca-Cola there, or Fanta or anything? How come I can't find seed and fertilizers? That means it's a very, very bad system. So I made a decision that I will not sign any fertilizer contract or any seed contract with anybody as minister for 4 years. All the seed companies, all the fertilizer companies have to be like Coca-Cola. Get your product to those that need it. All I had to do from the government side is make sure they have support to have effective demand for the product that you have. But that value chain you have to build all the way to yourself. And then we built a machinery that it took some of these small shops that sell you Fanta, Coke, and cigarettes in the villages. We turned them into input suppliers, right? Last mile delivery all across the country. It was revolutionary. And I started something called the electronic wallet system, which was a way in which you deliver digitized payments to farmers by their phones with vouchers for buying seeds and fertilizers. It doesn't matter which part of the country you are in, you could get access to it. So we ended decades of corruption in the fertilizer sector using that system.
What was the backlash like? Because you faced a lot of backlash then. In fact, a lot of people tried twisting the narrative of what happened then. What was the backlash like, and how did you surmount it? I
remember telling my wife, I said, honey, look, I'm about to embark on a very, very dangerous pathway here. God help me as I go, but I cannot guarantee you that I'll be back alive. That's what I told her. Because, look, whatever is worth doing, you do it for God, you do it for people. You have to take risk on the behalf of those that have no voice.
So you feared you could have been killed when you were trying to tackle?
Well, I wouldn't say kill. I thought it was a very dangerous thing to do.
Mafia.
I was aware of how dangerous that was. But I wasn't deterred, is what I wanted to say. You know, and we went after to try and deal with that. And what we did, basically, there was a lot of resistance. Of course, the fertilizer importers were not happy, the seed importers were not happy, and so on. But I think they tested me and see whether I was going to be worried. I wasn't worried. But President Jonathan stood behind me like a rock, and so that helped my policy. And what we did was just bring in transparency. Look, if you have a bunch of thieves in a room, right? All you have to do is just bring in light, and they'll be running out, because transparency is so important. And so I decided that, okay, digital technology, mobile phones, farmers had mobile phones. And when you were saying that people some people thought I actually bought phones and gave them to farmers. No, it was not true. The farmers had their phones. All we had to do is, I got your biometric information, and we were able to take your ID number to that biometric information into your phone number, and we registered you all across the country. So the farmers got their inputs in the remotest of villages. But just to finish that point, that program worked so much that the percentage of farmers that received government-subsidized fertilizers increased from 11% historical to 94%. So all that transformation, massive, you saw in Nigeria, was because we were able to end that corruption and get the farm inputs to the farmers and see what they did. I trust Nigerian farmers a lot.
But like they say, culture will eat strategy for breakfast. You have left now. Most of those successes have been rolled back. We're having food problems. Growing food, not only in Nigeria, on the African continent, it's a big problem. We're seeing the problem even with wheat to be able to get by, where there are improved varieties that we've not been able to harness. Also, climate change is also affecting our growth prospect. Now, you now serve, in the African Development Bank. Have you been able to surmount some of those challenges, with the funding they give and also with the advocacy you do?
Well, if you take a look at Africa, for example, I don't believe, Africa has 65% of the uncultivated arable land left in the world to feed 9.5 billion people by 2050, or maybe 10 billion people by 2050. And so what Africa does with that agriculture is going to determine the future of food in the world. So when I was elected president of the bank, of course, given my experience, I'm an agricultural economist by training, and I've worked globally all of my life in different areas. And so I know exactly what needed to be done. And so I launched something called a High Five program to light up and power Africa, to feed Africa, which is the second one, to industrialize Africa, to integrate Africa, and to improve the general quality of life of people. So that has to be education, water, sanitation, health, and skills and jobs and all of those things. But in the case of agriculture that you mentioned, I launched through the African Development Bank a $25 billion program over 10 years to turn around agriculture for the continent. And look, we are making incredible progress, and I'll tell you a few about it. For example, take a look, you're talking about the issue of wheat. In Ethiopia, in 2008, we have a program called Technologies for African Agricultural Transformation that brings together the global agricultural research system, the national agricultural research system, the regional agricultural research system, and the private sector, right? And we were able to provide them with drought-tolerant seed varieties of wheat. Those heat-tolerant wheat varieties, the Prime Minister is a good friend of my Prime Minister, Abiy. They started cultivating in Ethiopia. I think they did 5,000 hectares in 2018. Do you know how much they did last year?
How much?
2.2 million hectares.
From 500,000 hectares?
Yeah. And within 4 years, they became self-sufficient in wheat And now Ethiopia, for the first time in its history, is a net exporter of wheat. Now, the other thing that we are doing in agriculture, because, I've always said agriculture is the way in which we're going to transform rural African economies. You know why? 85% of our population, 85%, are in rural areas. So if you cannot have economic transformation without actually having agricultural transformation, as that's what's going to touch the lives of people at the bottom. So we have a big program today that's called Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zones, which is developing new economic zones all across Africa, close to where the farmers are. And these have enabling infrastructure, power, water, roads, and digital infrastructure, irrigation, and all of that. And why? Because they are the ones, the companies that will buy products from farmers, they will process it, right? You will create a new ecosystem of wealth in the rural economies, it create a lot of jobs, and then you don't lose all the commodities that you actually produce, and you are taken out of the rural areas into the urban areas because of poor infrastructure. So today we are investing about over $3 billion in that in more than 11 countries. In Nigeria, for example, I helped to put together an $851 million program in Nigeria. Ourselves, African Development Bank, Islamic Development Bank, the International Fund for Agriculture, we were able to do that. And the Africa Investment Forum, which we held in December last year, I got governors across from Nigeria that came into a boardroom with me about how we can raise more money for this in Nigeria. Guess what? We wanted to raise $750 million. We raised $2.2 billion for that for Nigeria. And later, that has grown to $4.4 billion. So now we'll be able to develop those special agro-industrial processing zones in all states of Nigeria, all the remaining states, all 36 states, and the Federal Capital Territory. So this is working in several African countries. It's also going to have to work in Nigeria. So those are some of the things that we did.
Okay. But the argument has always been, with over 30 million square kilometers of land, a lot of uncultivated arable land, the big question is, when are we going to get off aid? And I say that in relation to what is happening in America today with USAID cut short, Trump coming in with the tariffs and all of that. Africa is beginning to see that this aid is not sustainable. When are we going to turn it to trade? When is that industrialization going to kick in? I know you did something around energy recently with Mission 300, but we want to see that big push in the door.
Yeah, talking more globally and also across Africa, fundamentally, I don't believe Africa should beg its way to development. Africa can be supported, but I have always believed that development must be done with pride, right? You must be able to say, I'm better than this. I do this for my own pride, for my own people.
So you think it's a good thing that the aid is all off the table now?
Well, look, if you have a baby that is born, the baby is fed on milk. A time comes when that baby has to start eating solid food, start eating meat, and start growing up. So I think that for low-income countries, for fragile states, that has been helpful. But I do think that for countries to develop or accelerate their development, they need to have concessional financing, which is not aid, right? They need to also be able to mobilize their domestic resources, to be able to get their institutional capital working for them. Look, you were mentioning the whole issue of President Trump and all of that, and so many people all get so
worried and worked up. Yeah?
I'm not.
Really?
No. The reason I'm not is that, look, he was elected by the American people to be their president, and he's running a domestic policy that he believes is in the interest of his country. What we've got to do is to run what's in the interest of our nations and what's in the interest of Africa. Why should I be worried? You take a look at a continent that has 65% of the arable land to feed the world, right? It's not in Asia, it's not in America, it's not in China or any part of the world. So what Africa does with agriculture will determine the future of food in the world. Why should I be worried? When we have 477 million young people below the age of 35, that's going to make Africa the workforce of the world, brimming with talent, entrepreneurship, and skills and capacities. Why should I be worried? When it comes to the issue of renewable energy in the world, the largest renewable energy sources are in Africa. Why should I be worried? When it has to do with energy transition that you mentioned globally. Look, today, everything you need for global...
Shouldn't you be worried because of leadership?
No, I will come back to that. But on the issue of electric vehicles, for example, take lithium-ion batteries, for example. Everything you need, from platinum, a group of metals, to cobalt, to graphite, to copper, to everything that you need, to lithium, are in Africa. And lithium, for example, I mean, just DRC alone, in terms of platinum, probably accounts for 90% of the global platinum supply. And this is what you need, right, to be able to do, mobile phones, lithium-ion batteries, and so on. The size of that market, Rufai, just the lithium-ion batteries, is going to be roughly about $7 trillion by 2030. But by 2050, that market, on electric vehicle market, is going to be worth $59 trillion. And so it's a question of how you develop, position yourself, but develop your own manufacturing capacity so that you are not selling raw materials. Because when you sell raw materials, if somebody slams a tariff for selling raw materials, it's not strategic for them. But if I'm actually selling you semiconductors, if I'm selling things that you need, right, it's very, very difficult for you to just wave me around like that. So I think the lesson there is for African nations to industrialize. Look, we have the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. The size of that market is $3.4 trillion, right? And so in finance, if you want to reduce your risk, you do what? You diversify your portfolio. Same thing works for trade. So you make your local market very strong. You make your purchasing power very high. And then you have integrated markets. Whether you integrate your financial markets, you integrate your stock exchanges, you mobilize domestic capital, you do industrial development, value-added products in your own region, then you use your zone to develop and consume what you're producing. So all I'm saying is that it's a wake-up call to continue to do the right thing. We have to make Africa great.
Again,
we have to make it great.
Great. But all of this rests with leadership.
Yes.
On the African continent, you talked about DRC. See what is happening between Rwanda and Congo. On the African continent, we've had leaders that have not been able to catalyze all of this greatness Africa's got. So all of this is great, but when there's a leadership gap, then it becomes problematic. So how can we build the frontiers or the new leaders of the future?
No, absolutely.
How can we build the likes of the new Thomas Isidore Noel Sankara that says we must reimagine the future, because Africa is not doing that?
Well, first and foremost, I want to be clear that we shouldn't generalize about Africa. That's what I hear, because I'm president of African Development Bank. Today, you take a look at the growth. Just because we have some challenges, everybody has challenges. It's like being in a family, right? Have you ever seen a family that doesn't have its own challenges? Okay, so it depends on how you play it up. Some people just go out and find a little thing wrong in Africa, or maybe, and make it into a big issue, right? You have a conflict somewhere, you have a feeling there, as if the whole continent is at war. And those things affect the credit ratings of the country. So there's a lot of misperception when it comes to that. I'm not excusing the fact that there are some challenges. I'm only saying that let's not overgeneralize with regard to that. Now, to the point that you raised, yeah, leadership is critical. Leadership that uses resources well. Leadership that is people-centric. Leadership that is accountable, right? Leadership that fast-tracks development. Look, I don't think it's a brain surgery to actually be an advanced, developed country. If you look at those countries, what do? They invest in human capital. They invest in infrastructure. They have solid macroeconomic fundamentals. They have fiscal regime that allows them to mobilize more resources. They direct those resources to the areas that are needed, right? They build their infrastructure over time. They also make sure that they have a good, transparent governance system for the most part that allows private capital to come into their economies and to grow. So it's all about doing the right thing. So when people say leadership sometimes, I find it's too generic for me. It's like saying, you need a doctor. No, the question is, you need a good doctor who knows what they're doing. And so it's people-centric, accountable leadership that we need. And we've seen that in many, many African countries, I must tell you, despite some of the challenges that we see. Today, you have 9 out of the 10 fastest growing economies in the world are not in Asia, they're actually in Africa. We've been supporting many of these countries. I see a lot of great leadership in many, many of these countries. But to your point about conflicts, yes, if you wake me up and you say, look, Akin, what is your greatest challenge in Africa right now? What makes you lose sleep? I'll tell you it's insecurity. Yeah, because the challenge is that insecurity, except for the cases like we have maybe in Sudan, and also we have the challenge in DRC Congo, between Rwanda and DRC Congo. But for the most part, a lot of what is driving those insecurity is actually not interstate conflict. It's poverty, it's climate change, environmental degradation, and lack of economic opportunities for young people. So we just got to go back and deal with those fundamental issues. Because look, when people don't have jobs, a free hand is a devil's workshop. Yeah. And so we got to make sure our young people have skills, they have jobs. We must hold ourselves accountable for the young people of this continent. Look, I can't accept that the future of Africa's youth lies in Europe. I was with Prime Minister of Italy, and we're discussing. I said, she's my very good friend, and I said, look, Madam Prime Minister, no, the future of Africa's youth is not in Europe. It's not in Italy. It's not in Latin America. It's not even in America or Canada or anywhere else. I'm not against people migrating. No, don't get me wrong. But it must be in an Africa growing well. Quality growth. Accountable for its youth. Look, how can my demographic asset become your own problem? No, I've got to manage my economies better. So I think that part of responsible leadership is also responsive leadership to the growing part of our population, which is the young people. Coming back to Nigeria, for example, you have this thing called the Jakpa.
Yeah. People are leaving the country.
No, people are leaving. Yeah. No, we have to turn that around.
It's a brain game?
Well, we've got to really believe first in the youth. Look, I go around many African countries, and I'm told, well, we have a youth empowerment program. Yeah, I hear that quite a lot. I don't know what it means. Because hardly have I seen any young person walk up to me and say, I've been empowered. So I don't know the people trying to empower them while they're empowering themselves. No, what the young people need, Rufai, is investment. They need trust, confidence, capital behind them. That is what led me at the bank. I look at all the commercial banks in all of Africa, and I see they were not lending to young people. All our young people are going to flying out and going. And that makes me ashamed as president of African Development Bank, and I can't take it, because that's a market failure. That's a missing institution problem. And I said, look, we're going to change that. That's why the African Development Bank today, we are rolling out what's called Youth Entrepreneurship Investment Banks. These are new financial institutions dedicated only to providing capital, investment capital, to turn the ideas of our young people into great businesses. Why can't we have Zuckerbergs coming out of Africa? Why can't we have Bill Gates and also coming out of Africa? So what I'm saying is that we must, part of leadership is recognizing your constituency. The largest constituency you have is the young people. And it's not throwing them crumbs, right? Okay, it's trying to turn that demographic asset into a powerful economic dividend. That's how you get respect.
But it rests on capital, like I said before. It also rests on leadership. With having a disruptive mindset, you faced a lot of challenges. Yeah. I remember the tiff that happened when you were trying to get your second term. How did you navigate through those challenges? Because a lot of people don't still even believe in the foresight you have for Africa. They don't still even believe and say, oh, why is he investing so much money in the young people? Why is he being more out there? Why is he raising money for Mission 300, to be able to power Africa? It's never going to go along with. So there are still the doubters that are there. How do we drive them to this dream of this greater Africa? And how do you surmount those challenges when you feel betrayed? Especially I want to start from when you were trying to get a second term to start with.
No, you see, the thing is that every time that you have an assignment, when I was elected president of the bank, this is not a job for me. I don't have a job. That's not a job. It's a mission. I can't think of anything more important to have the resources, to have the support, and to have the platform to go and change and transform the continent of my birth. So it is not a job, it's a mission, and that's how I look at it every single day. In the last more than 8 years, 9 years, our work has impacted from the bank on more than 500 million people, 500 million people, from access to electricity, to water, to sanitation, to people that are getting access to good health, and food security. I'm proud of what we've done. I'm proud of the progress we are making. I'm proud of the leadership that we have. But you cannot succeed in life if you're hoping that people are just going to be applauding you and supporting you. Look, every time that you move, there's going to be an opposition against what you want to do. Question is whether you really believe in what you do. I solidly believe in an Africa that I'm impatient with Africa's underdevelopment, and I think we need to move much faster. And so, for example, at the African Development Bank, that's what we've been doing. And, when the challenges came in 2020, there was really nothing wrong here. Every time that you do something, you find people that try to...
There are a lot of daggers being thrown at you.
Oh, no, I know.
At some point, people felt, will he survive this?
Well, the truth always wins. You may not like the sun, but if you don't like it, all you have to do is cover your eyes because you can't stop it, right? And so we continue to do our work, and I think I'm very pleased that people recognize that all those things were basically crap. They were all fabricated things. And when it was time for me to be reelected, I was reelected for my second term in those turbulent periods by all the shareholders of the bank with 100% of the vote of the shareholders. I have two shareholders, African share. We have in the bank, African shareholders. We have 54 of those. We have 27 of those that are non-African. So we have 81 shareholders. So I was elected 100% by all the African shareholders. I was elected 100% by the non-African shareholders. And we work like this as a team, and we've been able to do all these things that we've done. Look, same shareholders, they have great confidence in my leadership and vision. I got a letter from the Secretary Yellen of the Treasury Department, who just left before President Trump came in, about the last week in the administration, praising my leadership, my vision, and the way in which I've taken this bank to a global stage. Look, I don't accept that African institutions have to be mediocre. I'm not used to mediocrity at all. And so I'll fight for that. It's all about leadership, it's all about vision. It's all about propelling the institution to be all that's supposed to be. We raised the capital of the bank.
Yeah, that was the first
when I came in 2015, the capital of the bank was $93 billion.
Yeah.
I raised it with support of my shareholders today to $318 billion. Now, the bank, because of our work, we were ranked by Global Finance 2 years ago as the best multilateral financial institution in the world. And just 2 years ago and last year, we were ranked, the African Development Bank, as the most transparent financial institution in the world. And so today, I feel proud that I'll be leaving behind a global institution, respected institution, but more than that, a solutions-minded financial institution dedicated to accelerating the development of Africa relentlessly. And so that is what we were asked to do. That's what the founding fathers of these institutions asked us to do. People always say, look, I have great ambitions. I don't like small stuff. Look, God giving us oxygen, right? That oxygen will have an expiration date, whether you like it or you don't. Question is, why not use that oxygen to do big things? Why use it to do small things? I believe in big transformational things, but I don't believe in the power of me. No. I believe in the power of us, the ability to get people to focus, to work together. Look, you were mentioning the whole issue of energy just now. Myself and the president of the World Bank, Ajay Banga, we got together, and I remember telling Ajay Banga, president of the World Bank, look, we have been working at the African Development Bank since I've been here. We've connected more than 25 million people to electricity, but that's not enough. So I said, look, Ajay, why don't you join me? Why don't we work together? People don't eat your flag or my flag. right? People just wanted to have electricity. And so that's why we launched Mission 300, to connect, provide access to electricity for 300 million Africans by 2030. Because big issues, it's just like surgery. Have you ever gone to a surgical table and see a doctor walk alone? No.
There's a team.
There's a team. So we got to learn to, it's not about ego, it's not about you. It's about ability to forge alliances and strategic partnerships that brings the future of those poor people that we are supposed to be serving, bring it with a high discount rate to now. Why should everything good in African people's lives be in the future? Why is that? So we've got to be able to solve big problems, solve them very, very quickly, because the poor can't wait.
Okay, so a couple of months from now, you're going to be leaving this job. You've done so well. You got in where you were 55. Today, you're 65, still dancing. I mean, I'm sure people have been seeing the footage from the party we had yesterday and all of that. Question is, a lot of people are asking, what's next for you? You want to give a shot at the presidency of your own country? I mean, because this is what Africa needs. We need forthright thinkers that can move the needle as regards development. You've been president of African Development Bank, you've done a lot of impact, and people are looking, what's next for you?
What do you think I should be doing?
Why don't you want to run for president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria?
One of the things that I'm grateful for as a Nigerian, many, many years when I was in graduate school in Nigeria, even after that, I had an opportunity to have obtained a U.S., I was given a great visa, but I would have actually gotten a U.S. citizenship, and I said I didn't want it. Not because I don't like America. My kids are Americans, and they were born there. But I remember telling a colleague of mine that this passport was a Nigerian passport, green passport. I cannot and I will never trade it for anything. It gives me a lot of hell. Wherever I go, we're traveling, and my kids are probably asked to go right through, and I'm asked to stay behind, and they ask you all kind of funny questions. When were you born? And when do you hope to die? Or any kind of question, just to make sure that you don't get in. But I told this friend of mine that God did not make a mistake in making me a Nigerian. He didn't make a mistake in making me an African. That I will live as a Nigerian, and I will walk by the special grace of God, that passport, that green passport, will be respected just like everybody else in the world, right? You don't beg for respect, you earn respect. So when you were talking about what will I do after, I started this interview by telling you that I always believe in the providence of God, the grace of God. I don't see myself as more than just an instrument in the hands of God to help people. Look, the only thing that makes me happy, there's nothing else that makes me happy than seeing lives of people transform, change. That's what gives me satisfaction. And so as a result of that, I will be available to serve in any capacity, globally, in Africa, anywhere, including my own country.
Including Nigeria?
Yeah.
Including the highest seat in the land?
Because I remember that's a song, we're talking. Thanks for coming for my party, by the way. You are such a great dancer. You rock that place.
And I'm happy that the president endorsed my dancing.
Yeah. But I remember one of the songs that I actually like in Nigeria. It's by a great singer, pop artist, Davido.
Yeah.
And I think that song was I'm unavailable, they know they see me, I'm unavailable. But in the case where it comes to service of any kind, I would ask Davido to change that song, so I am available, then go see me. So no, I'll be available to serve in God's hand for anything that God has in store for my life.
So for you, it's going to be a life of service. You're available for national service, and you're ready to come back home, because after this 10 years you've spent now in Abidjan, the next phase is about creating more impact. I want you to say something to that young African They had crossroads in their life. Probably they are stuck somewhere, schooling. Maybe when you were like in Purdue, they had almost nothing in their pocket in the bitter cold of whatever country in the West, but has a heart and passion for change and development, that wants to do something and make something out of their life. They might be like you, maybe like 20, 30 years ago, but they don't have that compass to lead them home. What would you say to them?
Well, first and foremost, be tenacious. Have confidence in yourself. It is not where you started from that matters. It's not even where you were born. I wasn't born with silver spoon in my mouth. But keep working hard. Believe in yourself and trust in God. You know, don't also think that life is a bed of roses. You have to have great hard work. And so for young people that are listening to me today, you know, all I just want to say is be focused, be purposeful. You know, don't copy bad guys. You know, some people want things the easy way. Success is not, money is not success. No. You can have all the money in the world that you want. At the end of the day, you're going to leave it behind anyway. How many people have, you know, taken money with them? No. Having your mind to create impact through your knowledge, through your skills, through your businesses, through the things that you do on a day-to-day basis on what will impact and transform the lives of people. People are remembered not by the money they have. They are remembered by the kindness that they show. They are remembered by the people that they touch. And I always say, come back to the issue of leadership. I always say that the most important thing for a leader to have is kindness. Kindness. And so I'll say that trust God, and whenever God gives you opportunity, do the right things. But whatever you do, be kind.
Thank you so much. That's about all we can take at this time. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you very much.
It's been great. You know,
hopefully you'll be back for my 100th birthday. So.
I mean, I can't wait for it. We're going to be dancing that day.
We'll still be dancing.
Yeah, we'll still be dancing. Thank you so much. I've been talking to Dr. Akinwumi Adesina. It's sad to say the outgoing president of the African Development Bank, and he shared his vision. And like he said in this interview, for more service, for national service, he's available. Thank you, sir. Well, thank you all so much for your time, and thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.